Unfortunately, it is the end, the finale of Chainsaw Man's anime, and while it is sad, the overall journey has been nothing but fun. First and foremost, we must say thank you to MAPPA for the brilliant job that they have done. Every hardworking, talented individual that has touched this show has produced nothing but brilliance. It's creative, it's unique, it's filled with so much love and passion to Fujimoto's material, and while it is approached from a different perspective, it's very much enjoyable and filled with the utmost respect. This episode is no different. There's a lot of great moments within here to really leave you on the edge of your seat wanting more, wanting season 2, wanting to see the future of Chainsaw Man's anime. And while it's going to be a while till we get anything for anything in regards to its anime, they did leave us on a nasty cliffhanger. This episode is segmented in a couple of different ways. Firstly, you have Aki's battle with the Snake Woman, you have Denji's battle with Katana Man, and then you have kind of like a slice of life montage at the end to really cap everything off nicely. While it kind of jumps oddly between those moments, it never feels out of place. It kind of feels pretty normal. I think the jump towards a slice of life from Katana Man and Denji's fight might feel a little bit odd for people. It seems kind of snappy. And even though the battle leads you to that point, it's such a big traversal in time, even though it's really not, it just feels like it. It's not a bad thing, especially because when I was watching it, I did not realize 20 minutes have passed. I got so absorbed into the episode, absorbed into the moody moment that was going on, and I just lost track of time. Have you ever felt like that when you watch something extremely good and you just lose every notion of time imaginable? This was that moment for me. First segment with Aki I thought was brilliant. The whole smoke, revenge, the flickering of Himeno's flashback is just beautiful. Heartbreaking, saddening, especially with the ghost kind of providing that cigarette and the history between Aki and Himeno and bringing that to a conclusion. Beautifully done. Brilliant way to bring everything full circle and to tie off not only Himeno's story but to kickstart a new life for Aki, a new mentality, a new emotional approach to things. This is a changing point for Aki's life, and you see in the first snippet of it at the end of the episode. I've seen a lot of people not enjoy the music that has been attached to this show, but for myself, I love it. I think it's such a perfect fit to create such a suffocating atmosphere, especially the stuff that is droney, that has this real lingering note to it that isn't ear-piercing, that isn't too subtle, but just perfectly balanced within there to feel the noise or to feel the background and to provide a sense of emotion. That Aki segment is filled to the brim with it from start to finish, and there's like lingering high-pitched notes, which is, I believe, from a piano if I remember correctly, and it just helps break up that moment even more, and it gets you flustered. It gets you pretty teary if you're a really big fan of Himeno or Aki, or not even that. It just touches your heart in that way. Very purposeful, beautifully designed. I love their approach. They end that off pretty easily. Aki kills Ghost. He manages to bypass the fear factor that Ghost needs to attack people, and then Kobeni is the one actually behind the Snake Woman threatening to kill her. So it kind of brings it all to a close. I really love the transition period between Aki's segment and Denji and Katana Man's segment. Right in the middle there is Denji and Power within an elevator. The first floor they stop and they find zombies, which they're like confused. Obviously they're looking for Katana Man, but Power is the one to really initiate the charge, but it's filled with a lot of comedy, brotherly, sisterly humor, and you can just see them getting closer and closer to one another. You can't help but just laugh at this situation. Denji tells her to be quiet and she's super loud and obnoxious and starts fighting them, and while she's trying to show off towards Denji, she's, hey, look at me. You just see Denji in the background and the elevator doors just closing as he leaves. Just does not care whatsoever, and you can't help but laugh because kind of focus on it, but they really don't. They kind of just throw it into the background like it's just a normal day for their characters, which to be honest it basically is. And you get a nice showcase of Power going through and devouring all these zombies and Denji looking for Katana Man, which you eventually get. This kick starts pretty quickly, almost instantly, and this is just animation fest. Beautiful mix of CGI and kind of compositing and all of the buzzwords that I don't know anything about, admittedly, but just how everything was structured felt really nice. I could easily imagine that this was one of the most nerve-wracking fights to animate. A lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on. Just animating Denji with his chainsaws is probably difficult in itself, and now you have Katana Man, and now you have a moving train, and then jumping through buildings. There's a lot of parts, and trying to keep everything grounded and feeling natural and not too over the top, but still has to be very climatic. It's a balancing act, and one that I feel like they nailed pretty well. I absolutely adore the use of the, I guess, moving camera perspective, and a great example of this is when Denji gets flung through the air and across these buildings, and you see the power of Katana Man. He lands on a train that's moving, and this is where their fight really kicks off. And when they kind of have this face-to-face clash, the camera camera rotates around them like in a 720-degree angle, and it just feels flawless. So they're clashing and fighting within the middle, so you're getting close-ups and then it pulls back out and it's still spinning all at the exact same time while the train's moving, and you're seeing buildings in the background fly by. There's just so many things going on, but everything is central to their fight. You never get lost within it, and that's a pretty impressive thing to say, I think, because of the amount of things going on, but also these two characters being so flashy. Personally, I think they've done this fight justice. I enjoy the weighty approach. I enjoy the more grounded, realistic approach. It sounds weird to say when you have a chainsaw guy fighting a katana guy, but these aren't obnoxiously overpowered individuals, which that too also sounds weird to say, but they're not flinging them entirely across the city, but just more so building to building, which is impressive enough. But when they get kind of in close hand-to-hand combat, you feel kind of the weight behind their actions when they swing their arms or when they rotate their body, and it's small and it's minuscule, but I think for me it helps kind of feel more in tune with their characters and how they actually move within the world. You know, Denji just can't jump up a 10-story building, he actually has to make his way up there, either climbing up the side or doing something more extra. So seeing them clash and being around about equal strength for the most part, they negate each other quite heavily. What it ultimately comes down to is a surprise attack versus Katana Man's unsheathing attack, right? Which is a pretty cool standoff. The fight eventually makes its way into the train, so it's more clustered, it's more focused in, and you have less room to expand on, but instead you build more of an intimacy towards these two. They've been clashing so wildly and openly, and now it's down to this long corridor. Denji's in a rough situation. He's lost his arm. He's losing to this unsheathed attack that Katana Man does where he just disappears in front of his opponents. And it's funny how Denji recognizes this, that it's unfair that he can do it. Denji loses both of his arms. You're kind of concerned, like, what can Denji do to beat Katana Man? And he's about to do the final attack and go for his head and finish everything. And for a moment, you're genuinely concerned on how this would end. Like, what can Denji do with no arms? The only reasonable answer that he's actually managed to figure out and utilizes perfectly within this moment is that he creates a chainsaw from his leg and cuts Katana Man completely in half. And they did not shy away from that. It is as brutal as it sounds. Overall, I really enjoyed this fight. I think they've done it justice. It was fun, it was crazy and chaotic, and kind of had you on the edge of your seats. The transition moment for this is an iconic scene. Denji and Aki taking their anger out for Himeno on Katana Man by kicking him in the grind. I'm sure a lot of you are probably confused by that scene, but that is just Chainsaw Man. That is just Fujimoto. A silly, quirky little moment before Katana Man gets locked away forever. He goes out like that. There was also a brief, menacing scene with Makima, which I really loved. I thought it was really moody and sets up the future for Chainsaw Man's second season, whenever that would be. They have enough material now to actually look for the Gun Devil, as the amalgamation of meat that they have is moving towards it. The final ending scene is just perfect. The daily life and shenanigans of Aki, Power, and Denji, and this is kind of the highlight of the episode, to be honest. This is a new Aki paired with Denji and Power being themselves as usual, and seeing them as this family grow and become more connected with each other is just outright beautiful. For the first time, you actually see Aki turn over and smile at Denji and Power. They ended off in a real cutesy way with them eating dinner, and there's just so much personality, so much life being fueled into this moment, and it ends with Aki smoking that cigarette that Himeno left him, finalizing symbolically, and for Aki's character, closure. It's subtle, it's sweet, it's perfect. A more than great way to bring the show to a close. I would like to mention that these daily activities is backed by the ending, which is by Eve, a great way to tie off the ending as a whole. Even though you don't get the visuals, because it's backed with this lovely family orientation, it takes its place. And the very last thing that you see is the teaser for a very iconic character. I will not give you her name, but for all the manga readers out there, you know exactly who that is. You don't see her fully, but you get to hear her voice, which makes me very excited for season 2. I almost forgot to mention, but right before that scene actually is with Denji as a child looking at the door, a very iconic door, which behind it is a lot of his past, a lot of his trauma, a lot of things that he has concealed away, and that Pochita, who you hear talk to him, is trying to keep him away from. It's dangerous, it's toxic, and while you probably forgot about it within the show, this is the vital core of Denji's character, why he is the way he is. And I want to make sure that people remember this if you read the manga from here, or whenever season 2 comes around. It's very important, and it explains everything. That is it. That is the end. I'm very happy with this overall show. I'm glad I talked about it every single single week. I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but I pulled through. It was a couple of stressful times there, but I had fun. And I couldn't be more thankful for all of you coming on this journey with me. Even though it wasn't a new journey, I'm still grateful regardless. Don't worry, I'll have a couple of more videos about the anime coming within the new year, but at this time, I want to hear your overall thoughts right now. Thank you.